Welcome back. For the longest time, it has felt like Apple fundamentally forgot the iPad mini even existed. It's been treated like the middle child of the tablet lineup, always a little behind, always making do with last year's hand-me-downs. But if the latest murmurs from the supply chain are anything to go by, that is about to change dramatically. According to reliable sources, Apple is gearing up to give the Mini a massive overhaul that frankly puts the rest of the iPad lineup on notice. The strategy in Cupertino is shifting. They are no longer content with giving us a merely good enough small tablet. Instead, what's interesting here is that they appear to be turning the Mini into a high-tech test lab for bleeding-edge features that haven't even made their way to the mainstream models yet. For those of us who have always appreciated that notepad-sized form factor but hated the nagging feeling of buying compromised, two steps behind technology, this is the news we've been waiting for. Let's separate the real leaks from the noise and see what the iPad Mini 8 is actually bringing to the table. First on the docket is the display, historically the Achilles heel of the Mini experience. We are intimately familiar with the endless complaints about the jelly scrolling effect on the current generation. The LCD panel in use feels decidedly dated compared to the incredibly vibrant display sitting right now in your pocket. Reminds me of the time we transitioned from old standard-definition tube TVs to the very first flat screens. The difference is night and day once you make the leap. Well, Apple is finally putting that old LCD out to pasture, moving to a stunning 8.3-inch OLED panel. This is a massive step forward. We are talking about true deep blacks, accurate colors, and dynamic contrast that elevates everything from reviewing architectural blueprints to streaming a movie on a long flight. But here's the truly fascinating part of this rumor. Apple is allegedly deploying this advanced OLED tech on the Mini before they even touch the larger iPad Air. Why the VIP treatment for the smallest device? It comes down to volume and risk mitigation. By introducing OLED here first, Apple is using the Mini as a dry run. It allows them to refine the manufacturing process without risking a catastrophic supply chain bottleneck on their highest volume products. For us, this cautious corporate strategy translates to a rare, undeniable win. We get the premium, top-tier technology first. Moving under the hood, let's talk about the silicon running the show. The word on the street is that Apple is planning to drop the A19 Pro chip directly into this compact chassis. That is absolute, undeniable overkill for a tablet of this footprint, and frankly, I love it. It is the technological equivalent of dropping a Corvette V8 engine into a golf cart. You will have a device that can chew through 4K video renders and complex CAD models without breaking a sweat. Apple is clearly playing the long game here, future-proofing this device for the next 5 to 7 years. With the heavy computational lifting required by localized Apple Intelligence, they need a processor that won't choke 2 years down the line. Those of us who remember the agonizingly slow load times of early broadband know the absolute value of having processing power and bandwidth to spare. Having an A19 Pro means you will rarely, if ever, see a stutter, a dropped frame, or an application. Wait, because here's where the rumors get genuinely strange and fascinating. There's a specific detail floating around the supply chain that sounds more like science fiction than a standard hardware iteration. Apple is reportedly testing a chassis that completely removes the external speaker grills. Yes, the familiar machined holes at the top and bottom of the frame might disappear entirely. How exactly does one hear audio without speakers? The leak suggests a localized, vibration-based audio system. The entire metal frame of the iPad would essentially act as the speaker membrane, vibrating at high frequencies to generate sound waves. It sounds slightly unhinged at first glance, but this could actually matter because of the massive secondary benefits it brings to the table. By sealing off those acoustic ports, the iPad suddenly becomes vastly more water-resistant and dust intrusion drops to near zero. You could take this tablet onto a dusty job site without a second thought. My only real reservation is the tactile feedback. If the frame is constantly vibrating to produce the booming sounds of a Hollywood action sequence, will holding it for a 2-hour movie feel like gripping an orbital sander in a woodshop? Apple is usually meticulous about haptics, so I suspect they've engineered a clever way to isolate those vibrations, but it will be thoroughly fascinating to test. As for the broader physical design, do not expect a radical reinvention of the wheel on the outside. It will likely retain the sleek utilitarian aesthetic we've come to appreciate over the last few iterations. The bezels might see a slight reduction, giving it a slightly more modern edge-to-edge feel. Furthermore, because OLED panels naturally require fewer internal layers than traditional LCDs, the entire device might shave off a few fractions of a millimeter in thickness. In the hand, the whole tablet might feel even more like a magical pane of intelligent glass. And for the traditionalists out there, Touch ID is staying safely embedded right there in the top power button. While some clamor for Face ID across the board, Touch ID remains incredibly practical on a device you handle in a multitude of random orientations. It's a reliable, proven security measure that simply works. So what's the timeline, and more importantly, what is the final damage to the wallet? Current production schedules strongly indicate a launch in the second half of 2026. We are looking at a September or October rollout, positioning it squarely alongside the anticipated iPhone 18. It requires a bit of patience, certainly, but a Mini with legitimate Pro-level specifications is arguably worth the wait. However, that brings us to the inevitable pain point, the price. You cannot cram a stunning OLED display, a flagship A19 Pro processor, and experimental haptic audio tech into a device without the corporate bean counters having their say. The consensus among reliable insiders points to a new starting price of $599. That $100 premium is a significant jump. If you are a dedicated power user who spends hours every day managing logistics, reading, or traveling, that initial investment pays massive dividends in daily usability. But if it's just a digital newspaper for Sunday mornings with your coffee, the value proposition gets a bit murky. We will see how this all unfolds over the next 18 months. Removing the speakers entirely feels like one of those classic, uncompromising Apple decisions, right up there with killing the headphone jack or removing the floppy drive before it. It's controversial at first, but it often pushes the entire tech industry forward. The iPad mini 8 is shaping up to be the most compelling small tablet released in a decade, finally shedding its long-held status as a corporate afterthought. I'll keep tracking these developments closely for you. What's your take on this aggressive strategy? Does a $599 OLED mini earn a designated spot in your daily gear bag, or is Apple over-engineering a device that was already perfectly good enough? Let's hear your thoughts down below in the comments. If you found this deep dive helpful, hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel is always immensely appreciated. See you in the next one. Take care.